Hey, I'm Ulysses. I'm looking at games from a design perspective, trying to pick out what things I think work well and what could be better. Welcome to this roguelike bullet hell game called A Fistful of Gun. It's the old American West and you're trying to stop this evil railroad baron. Each randomized playthrough of the game has 3 acts. Each act consists of 12 levels, where you encounter settlers and aboriginal people who need your help, want to help you, make a buck off you, or murder you. If you survive all 12 levels, you'll have to fight the boss of that act. What I love most about this game is how playfully satirical it is. Most of the characters you talk to have big bushy mustaches and say when they talk to you. The writing is pretty absurd. The people who are about to kill you sound very kind, and the people who have requested your help have no integrity whatsoever. You can ride a horse, but they don't really lift their legs to gallop. You can just murder people, good people, and get a wanted level, and then, when the law shows up, it's like a normal level, and you can just kill them, and then there's no one left to want you, so your wanted level goes away. In big shootouts, enemies will often slip across the ice, or get bashed by the logs floating down the river, or just shoot an explosive barrel and kill all their friends. The visual aesthetic is certainly Wild West, but there's this desert, mirage, delirious arcade influence as well. There's even occasionally an opportunity to take some peyote, a psychedelic cactus, and trip around shooting people. Did you really kill anybody, or was it all in your head? The visuals here are so cool. Similarly, you can drink whiskey for a slowed down bullet time effect. Together, all these things make each person you encounter kind of feel like a goof. Another distinguishing weird aspect of this game is that so much is left unexplained. My first encounter with this was the pause menu. There is none. If you hit escape or start and select on the controller, you just start the game over. Hit it again and you quit. The health of the enemies is not shown, so in the heat of battle it's hard to really tell how well you're doing, as you're really busy dodging bullets and not really able to gauge how much damage you've done. The first time I played the gambling card game, I didn't really understand the instructions. After a couple playthroughs, I realized it was like the game Concentration, where you memorize the position of all the cards as you try to make pairs. Choosing your character, probably the biggest decision you can make in the game, is also not really well explained. Although I'll admit figuring out how your character works is somewhat fun, the characters don't feel particularly balanced. Some of them are near to impossible to play. For example, if you choose Billy, you are basically playing Dance Dance Revolution, having to push the correct direction of the bullet to fire. With this increased difficulty though, their attack must be very powerful, right? No. The character I ended up using the most is called the 13th, which is actually just a bunch of guys holding up a Confederate flag. The trade-off with this character is each guy can only shoot every couple seconds, as soon as they've raised the flag and it starts to shine. But each time you get hit, one of the guys in your group dies. Apparently, you can buy different flags for a large sum of cash, but it wasn't clear to me what that did. In a similar vein of thinking, the biggest design problem with A Fistful of Gun is that it doesn't feel very fair. Sometimes there are lots of enemies, sometimes there aren't, sometimes they each have lots of health, sometimes enemy reinforcements will just walk on from seemingly random places off screen, and sometimes that place is right where you are. There doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason. As I said, this game is a bullet hell game, where there's usually a barrage of bullets traveling in your direction. However, unlike games such as Enter the Gungeon, the configuration of the enemies, and therefore the source of the bullets, feels kind of thrown together. They're all moving at different angles with a huge spread, and it's often just impossible to avoid getting hit, because there is no dodge roll where you're invulnerable for a few frames. I'm not sure adding it would help though, to be honest. And there are practically no permanent structures to hide behind either. Well, that's okay, you start the game with 7 lives, not 1, unlike many other roguelike games. Surely you'll beat them on your second or third try. Alas, no. This game has a very punishing death system. When you enter the level for the first time, that is the most advantageous moment. You play through it, kill most of the enemies, but then one of them gets you and you die. On the second life, all of the enemies are back and instantly aggro, coming to attack you. The destructible objects that blocked some of the bullets last time are gone. And your horse, the thing that lets you move faster and take a bullet for you, is gone. Technically, you can get a horse again from an enemy, but they rarely run towards you, so you have to dive into a crowd of enemies, guns blazing, hoping nobody hits you nor hits and kills your horse immediately after you've mounted it. Boss fights, on the other hand, feel like the opposite. It's really hard in the beginning, but then after you've killed all their minions, it enters this tedious phase where you just have to keep shooting them and dodging their attacks. It just goes on and on and on. And if you accidentally walk in fire during the boss fight, you suddenly have until the count of 10 to finish them off before the fire kills you, which is not usually possible because the boss fights are so long. There are merchants along the way that provide stats upgrades, but they usually show up 1 or 0 times during a playthrough, more often 0, so that doesn't give the player a lot of agency in resolving this issue. Okay, that's it. So long.